Hello Android developers. My name is Mohsen, and as a new category in this YouTube channel, I'm going to talk with some Android community active members. The interview orientation is toward knowing their lifestyle and how they think about different parts of the Android APIs, and also encouraging junior Android developers who like to join this community and start developing Android apps. Hope you enjoyed this new category and do not forget to subscribe and hit the bell button to get notified when there is a new video. Let's start.
Hello, everybody. Come on in, grab a seat, get cozy, relax. This is weird. This is too much power for me, this microphone.
Hello, everyone. So today I'm here with Ben Kadel. I'm super excited that he accepted my interview request, and I knew him from Twitter, and then he started his YouTube channel some time ago, and now his YouTube channel is being seen by 3K or even more. Yeah,
3K at the moment. It's crazy.
Yeah, cool. So Ben, you can introduce yourself and give us some idea. Who are you?
Oh, well, hello. First of all, Masan, thank you so much for having me on this video series. I'm very honored, especially to be number one. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, so my name is Ben Kadel. I'm a senior Android developer at a company called Babbel in Berlin. We make a language learning app, and essentially my day-to-day job is Android development coding. That's me in a very brief nutshell.
Cool. So I have different type of questions, some broke into different categories, and I wrote some of them by myself, and I also opened the Reddit thread, and some developers also came there and dropped some questions. So we will go through and let's see how it goes.
Sounds good.
The first category is lifestyle, and you already introduced yourself and you mentioned where you're based, but we like to know what are your hobbies after work and when you're not working.
Ooh, that's a really good question. So yeah, immediately I'll preface this answer by saying that although I seem like quite an outspoken person, I have very, very nerdy hobbies. So I really like board games. I play and collect board games. For some reason, I own over 100 now, which is really silly and expensive, but that's me. I play Dungeons and Dragons. I do like doing some sport as well. So I play Ultimate Frisbee, and I go bouldering. So that's like sort of short climbing without ropes and stuff. It's like technical hand placement and strength and stuff. So that's sort of my hobbies after work. I do like to do a little bit of like coding outside of work, but I think as I've got a bit older, like I'm 30 now, as I've got older, I've sort of appreciated time away from a computer, I think. Although I love, what I do for a job, it's nice to have that sort of like separation.
Cool. That's interesting. So the next question is, tell us a fun fact about yourself.
Oh, a fun fact. Okay. The first one that just sort of pops to mind. I used to work as a circus specialist in an American summer camp for kids. Like they call it a sleepaway camp. So the kids come for 8 weeks and we work as like camp counselors. And I used to work as a circus specialist, teaching kids how to juggle, walk on stilts, Diablo, all sorts of crazy circus stuff. And I did that for three years in a row. So each summer I would fly off to America, work, and then fly back. And it was amazing. One of the best times multiple of my life. Really cool.
Yeah, now I know where all the fun comes into your video. So you're always juggling, jumping around, and that's super cool. I really like your energy. Yeah, exactly. I love your energy. Yeah,
that is very, very kind. Yeah, I think it worked well at camp. Like especially like I don't know why. Like I used to be a teacher as well. I really enjoy engaging with like folks that have a young energy, like young folks as well, teaching them something new, helping them sort of grow and understand the world. And I think I sort of get a lot of energy from that as well. And I've sort of managed to steal away a big bucket of energy that I use most days, cool. I guess. Thank you for that, though. That's a lovely compliment. Ed, let's go over to the screen. Wait, we hit it. Oh no, I gotta wait. I had something ready. Let's go. Hey Haley, I think you're the
I made a hat. We made it. 3K, baby. I don't know what's happening.
What was your latest non-technical book you read?
Ooh, non-technical. Okay, so the Androids by Chet Haas doesn't count because that's a technical book. So the non-technical book, I'd say, Barack Obama's recent autobiography. I think it's called The Promised Land or something. I can't remember the title of it, but I've read that. I don't think I've finished it, so I'm probably lying a little bit there. But I've read a chunk of it, and it's a really insightful and really cool book to read. Have you read it as well?
I saw some YouTube interview with Barack Obama about this book, and I found it interesting. But to be honest, I usually don't read that much non-technical books. Do you also do Android development in your free time? So to have some fun and doing some maybe your personal app or something like this?
So the short answer is not too much. I have been doing more and more as I've been getting sort of more senior, but most of my projects that I do, like Android wise, are sort of like playground projects, sort of mess around spaces. You'll just create an app to like, the most recent one I was messing around with like the compose canvas and stuff, just making different like things there. I do have one like project that I'm working on at the moment for fun, which is like an app basically for a friend and his mates. It's so like standard. It's like a group to do app list thing basically. It's like really simple, but it's nice to sort of play around. And I guess that's my coding for fun. I guess that is my answer for like the Android side of things. I do a lot of like coding for fun, different things. So like a lot of Node.js and JavaScript and stuff, because I think it's really cool to be able to like spin up something, then you can stick on a web server and other people can access it immediately. So I'm currently working on one of those like IO games. It doesn't look like anything yet, and I've got no progress on it, but it's basically a web server that uses like socket IO. So different clients can connect with a, socket connection, and you can create like little games and stuff. So me and my friends play a lot of these like IO games online. And I thought, well, why don't I create one of those? So yeah, I'm just sort of, that's my current fun project, I suppose.
That sounds interesting. I like to see it. It's cool.
When it's done, I'll make sure to send out like a GitHub link or something, because I don't intend for it to be like private, but it's not going to be very clean code because I'm not a JavaScript developer in any sense of the word. So
as long as it works, that's fine.
Yeah, as long as it works. Absolutely. Yeah. Amen. Yeah.
Cool. And after a long day working, how do you reduce your pressure and stress? Do you have any solution, like going to a dark room? I don't know, playing video games.
Okay.
Listening to some music.
I was going to say, just go into a dark room, shut the door, and just sit still for like an hour. That's my style. Honestly, off the top of my head, I don't really know. I do play a lot of like Xbox and stuff, and me and my girlfriend watch a extraordinary amount of like Netflix garbage. So I suppose that's how we unwind. We like to cook together as well, so that's a really cool way of like just unwinding. But yeah, I haven't really thought about that. Yeah, I think it's mostly just sort of like get away from this desk and go through that door and do something else in there. And that's usually, I guess I don't, maybe it's not a very good answer, but I guess I don't have too much stress in my life. Touch all the wood. Because tomorrow will be the most stressful day. There's ups and downs, but I think overall it's pretty chill. So I haven't got sort of this need for, de-stress, but yeah, that would be my answer. Sorry, it's a long one.
No, that's okay.
Dragged out.
I hope tomorrow Babbel doesn't say that we want to refactor the whole code and we want to release it next day. So
exactly, yeah. Hey, Babbel, if you're watching this, I have plenty of work. Thank you very much.
So, do you normally listen to music when you want to focus on a task? And if yes, then what genre or playlist or special artist or even a special song repeating all the time?
Okay, this is really weird because I literally had this moment today. Like I was like, right, code time. Before I even coded, I opened up Spotify and I was like, go. And then I was like, right. So actually I have it's quite interesting. I have my main genre when I'm trying to work and like really focus on generating ideas For the code, it'll be something without lyrics. Like Chill Step, for example, is my main sort of go-to. Something, it has to have no lyrics because otherwise I'll get distracted. But if it's something where it's a monotonous task and I don't need to really engage my mind, it's just some sort of, I don't know, bad example, but like find and replace across a bunch of files. It'll take me a couple of minutes. Then it's whatever. And my favorite artist is a band called Coheed and Cambria, which is they do like prog rock and metal rock and stuff. And I adore them, and I can always put them on. At the moment, I'm listening to this insanely brilliant artist called Mark Revier. He basically he has like a DJ deck, and he basically just creates the music on the spot. He has like a synthesizer, a looper, so he'll make like a hit like loop, and it'll do that, and then he'll sing on top, and that's really cool. But yeah, there's like two camps. If I need to really think, then no lyrics, Chill Step. If not, then it's just enjoy and go, just get, this sort of vibe as I'm going,
I almost do the same. But even if there's a lyrics song, then I should know that lyrics, because I don't want to focus on lyrics, and it should be already in back of my head. Because
do you not find that if you know the lyrics, it's somehow like worse because you're sort of like and sort of singing along in your head?
I think I don't care, because that part of my head that's singing is not coding, so that's fine.
Okay, that's cool.
I can survive, I think.
Oh, that's ace. I wish I had that. I wish I had that part of your brain. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So, by the way, you can share your Spotify links and artists and anything I will put in the video description, so anyone who is interested can go and listen and see.
Awesome. Yeah.
Ben listen to.
Definitely will do that. Yeah. Prepare for some weird music, everyone.
So, in general, how did COVID and pandemic and lockdown hit you and the way you're working? And do you like it this way, that you are forced to work remotely? And are you fine going back to office? So 3 questions.
It's it's definitely different, but that's the obvious part of the answer. Overall, I got to be honest, I would much prefer to be in the office. I don't know why. I think I think I struggle a lot just being on my own, literally in these 4 walls. I think I draw a lot of energy from other people being around me. Even if there's someone just on the desk next to me, they're not talking to me, they're busy. I feel like I'm sort of like, I don't know. I get like, it's like I don't know what it's a weird answer, but like I get some energy from just being near people. I think so. For me, this is very difficult. I guess I've learned to adapt. And I had, back when it all started, I actually worked at my old job. I worked at a company in England and lived in England as well. And then the pandemic hit, and personal circumstances. Me and my girlfriend had a long distance relationship then. And after 3 months of not being able to see each other, I was like, F this, I'm out. And I just left England, and then started to look for work in Germany. And it's worked out well for me, luckily. But yeah, it's definitely different. I really don't enjoy working from home. I mean, there's some days that I do, rolling out of bed and then 5 minutes later being at a desk looking like completely disheveled, like, oh, morning, everyone. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'll be excited for when it's like all green light, go back to the office, everyone. But I don't think that's ever going to happen again, I guess.
Let's see how it goes.
What about you? Do you prefer working from home or not?
For me, a good thing happened. So last year, my son got burned, and then
congratulations.
Thank you. And the whole COVID time, I was seeing he's growing step by step. So, and it's super nice when I can answer the other question that was about how to reduce the pressure. So when I'm tired, I just go and open the door and see him, and that's it. I'm totally fresh. And we got used to each other. I don't know how it works if someone says, okay, you have to go back to office. But at least up to this point, our company is not asking it. And they said, they may change it from work from home to work from office solution. So instead of one day working from home, we may have 1 day working from office, and that's it.
Okay.
But that's a new normal. That's what I usually say. So even the big companies are thinking about not going back and broaden their employees from everywhere in the world, because then the only time zones matter, and that's it. So
absolutely, yeah, you're right. New normal. That's it's a really good way of thinking it. Have you got any like? It's really cool that you've got like a son and you've just had a kid in COVID. Have you got any like sort of wisdoms from that? Like any experiences that you think are like important to share to other parents and stuff?
The only comment is that all your priorities changes. So at some point you're thinking about yourself, your wife, how you improve stuff. I don't know, how to buy a better TV, for example, or how you go to a better apartment with a bigger square meter. But when the kid comes in, then all your priorities switch to your kid and how to provide enough everything to the kid, enough love, enough money, enough time. So that's my only comment, and it's super nice. I like it.
That's cool. No, well, congratulations. That must be awesome. That's
Thank you so
cool.
much. The next question comes from Reddit. I had to change it because I don't want to directly ask you how much you make regarding salary, but you can answer. But there was a trend on Twitter that some pro Android developer also jumped in and shared their salary. I want to change it this way: that do you believe as a professional Android developer, do you make a good money in compared to other software engineers? And do you encourage junior developers to do Android?
That's really interesting. Okay, so yeah, salary wise, yeah, I would say for an Android, honestly, I think I do make quite a healthy sum as a software developer person. I'm quite aware, or I think I'm aware that there is a big like gap, and there's a lot of Android roles available. From what I've seen or experienced, there's always like people looking for native Android developers. And now that's definitely starting to change a little bit. I keep seeing Flutter as well in job titles and stuff like that. So, but anyone that can like manipulate an Android device in particular, I think there's a big gap in the market, and you should get paid well. You should get good compensation for that. If it's a rarer skill. For me personally, I think I make a healthy amount of money, I think. So yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? It's difficult talking about salaries because you don't want to like upset people. You don't want to like, I don't know. Yeah. But it's a decent question. I would say to anybody considering Android development, I never started my career intending to be an Android developer. That sort of just fell onto me accidentally. But what I have noticed from other friends that are other developers, that I've spoken frankly with, it does seem like Android developer roles as a whole, depending on where you are, major cities are possibly better, do make slightly more than the average developer. From what I can tell, I could be completely wrong. My sample size might be completely skewed, but that's what I've seen. Yeah.
Cool. Knowing all the pressure of being an Android developer and how you spend your day of working and after work, will you marry an Android developer?
Okay. Okay. So yeah, imagining that my girlfriend was an Android developer. I think I would. Like it would. There's one. Okay, there is one thing that pops to mind. The arguments we would have would be astounding. Like, because I'm so particular about how I do my Android development. If anything is out of place, I get really frustrated. So if my girlfriend or fiance or wife is an Android developer and we're having a conversation, they're going to be some of the most heated conversations you've ever heard. So it's probably safer to avoid marrying another Android dev. Maybe marrying an iOS dev. Now that's a dream team right there. You make a whole native app solution.
I never thought about it. So this question, to be honest, comes from my wife. She was asking if all Android developers are the same, or you are working too much. But
she's trying to find out if you're like sane on that end of the camera. Amazing. Mohsen's wife, I think he's fine. Yeah, he's good. He's normal.
He's normal.
That's funny. Yeah.
Cool. As the last question of this category, what's your phone brand? iOS or Android, and which one?
Oh, Android, absolutely. Okay. I would be a hypocrite if I had an iOS, but I have a Pixel 6 now. So I just got this just before, just after Droidcon Berlin, actually, it came through the post. And yeah, it's fabulous. I was working with a Pixel 2 before that. So I had a Pixel 2 for like 4 or 5 years and it survived. It was a great phone. one of the best phones I've ever had, a Pixel 2.
Yeah.
But then it was slowing down. Things were, the storage was actually way too small. I wanted to put loads of stuff on it. So I was like, right, time to upgrade. And the Pixel 6 had just come out. So I jumped straight on it.
I'm also a fan of Pixel. I switched from 2 to 4, but now I'm happy with 4. Let's see if I want to change. We will see you on the next category. Okay, the next category is about Android community and how you contribute to this community. As a first question, what was your latest contribution to the Android community? Any talk, any article, or whatever?
Well, recently I was at Droidcon Berlin, so I think that's my most recent contribution to the Android community. We talked, myself and a colleague of mine, we talked about how we integrated Jetpack Compose into the Babbel app. So, spoiler alert: Babbel app has Compose in it in production, which is really fantastic. And back at the start of this year, before Compose went stable, we were like, right, we want to get it into the app. Maybe we'll be lucky and picked up by Droidcon and get a talk. So we proposed the talk, we did all the work, and it was great. It was so much fun. Oh my goodness, so much fun being on stage in front of real people again, real people. Yeah.
I was there and you burned the stage. That's my comment. So
thank you so much.
I will share some of the videos with the viewer so they'll see I'm not lying.
Bless you. Thank you so much. Yeah, the videos of it's just a little circle though, and I move a lot on stage. So the poor cameraman is constantly having to go, oh, where's he going? Where's he going?
Back full circle. We started with 2 objectives. 1, to integrate Compose into the Babbel app and use it. We did achieve that. And sure, myself and Ahmed weren't the ones to put the Compose stuff into production. Again, thank you, Android devs. Woo. But we are on this stage to show you today that we have challenged ourselves and, as a company, succeeded to put it into the code base by Droidcon. And here we are. We rehearsed that too many times. It didn't land. Anyway, the last final question before you run away is, was it worth it? Was all of this Compose nonsense, learning from the ground up, redoing a bunch of app screens, was it worth it? Short answer, hell yes.
Okay, there's always some pressure doing some talk on the stage, or even you as a YouTuber that goes live. I never had the gut to go live, but you do. So how do you bear the pressure and how do you cool yourself down before going to stage or starting a live video?
Oh, that is a really, really good question. Okay. So I do have a couple of tips for this. I think, well, maybe 1 or 2. For me, when I started, so my context, just a little bit backstory about me. As I said, I used to be a teacher. So having to go up in front of kids often was something that I sort of it helped me get used to being on stage or in front of people at least. But before that, I actually went to amateur theatre group. So when I was a young kid, I was in theatre plays and stuff. I think that really helped me a lot. But I know obviously people don't have all those experiences. So over the time, as I've been doing these, I've tried to build up a couple of tips in my mind for other people. So one of the main things is, and this is going to sound really cheesy, but for me, I'm still quite scared of going on stage. I don't know if I hide it well. Hopefully I hide it well. But yeah, there's this one thing that I do, and I think I stole it from a movie. So if you can remember what the movie is, then let me know. But I sort of heard this in a movie. I was like, that's weird. I'll try it. And for me, it really works. And it's this basically, before you go on stage or before you do something where you have this sort of fear emotion or any sort of strong emotion, the mind is constantly trying to combat it. You're constantly trying to fight against it to sort of be okay, I'm ready. I'm scared. But this tip says for 5 whole seconds, again, stole this from a movie, it's not mine. 5 whole seconds, you are allowed to feel all of it. Let it overcome you. Let it surround you. Don't fight it. Just let the fear, in my case, just consume you. And what you'll do is you'll go, okay, 5 seconds, go. And you'll just 5 seconds of just oh, this is awful. This is going to suck. And then after 5 seconds, you have to stop. And you have to do something. You have to act after 5 seconds. And either that's go on stage or just sort of bounce around, something that's a bit different than what you were doing before. And what it did for me, at least, was it made me realize I'm a lunatic, right? That's the guy there, the 5-second fear guy. What the hell is that about? He's not going to get stabbed. No one in the audience is going to stand up and go, boo, you suck. I mean, they might, but they're not going to do that. Everything that weird fear person is feeling is just in here. And that exercise where it's like, okay, 5 whole seconds, not to fight it, just feel all of it, just highlights like, this is just up here. If I can just control that and move past it, everything's going to be fine. And then often you'll be on stage and you'll be there for like the first minute. You'll sort of be like still sort of feeling a little bit of the fear. It's not going to go away, but you'll feel it. And then after you realize that, oh yes, this person in the front row is not going to stab me, that person in the third row is not going to yell boo, then you sort of start to go, oh, okay, I can start to like release a little bit, enjoy this, and start to play a little bit more. And I use that every time. Like before I went on Droidcon, I don't, obviously the camera didn't catch me, but I was sort of off to the side of the stage. I sort of just go, I sort of stand still and just go. And that's me letting it all in, try and not show it, that sort of thing. And then I go, okay, cool. Everything that's going to happen on that stage is not as bad as what just happened in this brain. And I think it's a really useful tip. I've given that to a couple of people. Again, stole it from a movie. Other than that, it's just, unfortunately, it's a really rubbish answer, but practice, practice, practice. You can only get better and more confident, more silly, more fun by doing it over and over again. Go to meetups, go to tech talks, get live on YouTube, just practice being in front of people. I think it really, really helps. And then like my angle, I don't know if the audience has seen some of my videos. I try and make it silly. Like for me, it's always important that I have fun doing it. Otherwise it's just a chore. So I do like stupid jokes. I like have some fun. Like I'll introduce myself by like jumping into the camera or just make myself laugh, make myself have fun. And in doing that, again, it sort of does that whole relaxing thing for me. So yeah, I guess those are my tips. I don't know if that helps anyone, but yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. My biggest concern in such cases is that I'm not a native English speaker, and I'm really afraid of making big English mistakes. And people just say, okay, what did he say? And I'm kind of guy who should follow the script, have a list of questions in front of me, have something written already and recorded, pre-recorded, and read it again. I know I don't have a bad command of English, but at the end, that's just my stopper, to be honest. But I did talks. It's not that I didn't, but personally, that really hit me harder than pressure of watching people sitting there and they're looking into me. But cool.
So it's more about the deviating away from the plan that is the sort of the fear.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, if tips is what should be said, then at this point, I would say something like, deviating away from the plan. Often the audience doesn't know what the plan was, so you never really deviated. It's the perspective, isn't it? But that's just, again, that's my idea. And if you can play it off, like there's a moment back in my past where I was doing a stage performance and I dropped something on stage that was not meant to happen, but I played it off because instead of like going, oh shit, pick it back up, I played it off. I said something, stupid, like in the same character, like, oh, classic glasses always falling out of my hands or something like that. Pick them up that way, like just making it appear to the audience like it was never a mistake. I don't know if that is useful, but yeah, I understand your feeling though. Definitely, it's tough. Yeah,
I would try to do it. Thank you. But talking about jokes, I know on your videos you have a book and you have a fancy book and you read jokes from it. Can we do it now?
He came prepared. Yeah, give me a page number from 1 to 280 and I'll read you a joke.
280 and then 84.
Well, okay, here we go. 84. 84. This is what happens live. I search for a page and I'll say the category. Your category is drink. Drink is the category. And then I'll be like, all right, everyone, settle in, get comfy for a joke. Then I'll read the joke and I'll laugh like an idiot. Here we go. What should you always take into the desert with you? A first aid kit. Yeah, it's that good.
That was a good one.
It's really not. It's really not. But yeah, it's good fun. Oh,
it's like asking Alexa to tell me a joke.
Yeah, exactly. Did you hear why the chicken crossed the road?
I mute the Alexa. It would reply soon. Cool. Thanks for the joke. This one comes from Reddit. So from a junior Android developer, and this is about how you keep yourself up to date with the fast-paced Android community and Android API and Google, and they're releasing everything. Compose is here, Jetpack has changed it, and we have the navigation API. They are hitting us very fast. How do you keep yourself up to date? And at least in the stream.
Yeah. Totally a feel for that question, right? And back when I started Android development, I felt overwhelmed by the speed of change in Android development. It felt unfun simply because something you did 1 month, next month would be totally different. And unfortunately, again, my answer isn't super great. I think if you're going to be an Android developer, maybe you'll agree with me, Mohsen, that you have to make an effort to stay up to date. Otherwise, you'll fall behind. So it's genuinely by applying effort to it. I will read articles like proandroiddev.com. I literally go to that website every day and just see the new articles. If there's usually like 4 highlighted articles, I'll be like, do any of those interest me or anything I'm working on? If so, click it, read it. It's unfortunate like that. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. So wonderful channels like Philip Lackner, Coding with Mitch, Coding in Flow, those fantastic channels for Android dev in particular. They do videos that are always really topical to actual Android development. It's not just like, oh, how do you go from an activity to another activity? It's like, oh, here's an MVVM calendar app. Blah! And you can sort of take pieces out of that and apply it to your work. So there's a really good way to keep up to date. Reddit is a good one. Just any way you can read, interact with the community, watch some videos. It's not a great answer, but yeah, I think if you're an Android developer, that's part of the role, staying up to date. Yeah. What do you think? Do you agree?
I partly agree. So I do not follow all the trends. So I just follow the things that may affect my work and the way I'm working. But to be honest, I read all the titles, I read what's new, all the news, and Android community is really open, and the Twitter kind of is open with all those new stuff being tweeted here and there. So you just have to follow some of the pro Android developers, and they kind of share the news with you. So even without any effort from your side, you just have to open the Twitter app and read their tweets, and that's it. But yeah, I've also been there that, okay, now is Kotlin. I don't know about Kotlin. Now is some other Jetpack API that's here. Now, yeah, I already told you, Android has changed. New API is here. New permissions here. I think we can easily get along with it. That's the point. So
yeah.
And just focus on the part that is really related to your job. You don't need to know anything about, I don't know, camera API if your app is just the content app. So it just can narrow down. And I usually say it's like a big ocean, and that you should know the whole knowledge and on the surface, but in that part that you really work on it, you should really go deep and get the whole idea out of it.
That's a great analogy. I'm just stealing that into the old brain. That's a great analogy. Yeah. No, it's awesome. You're absolutely right. And it's like the code now and the job now is unrecognizable from what it was 5 years ago. Obviously, like, as you said, like the language differences, but it's like one of the only fields where that is really the case. Like a Python developer, they'll still have like very similar sort of Python code. JS developers, it'll be very similar, but now Android is like, it's great change. But yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Only dive into the bits that are important to you. Otherwise you're just overloaded. Yeah. Good answer.
Do you have a fixed time dedicated to learn new materials? For example, every day in the morning, 1 hour, I should go and read Pro Android Dev, or any time in the day, or even, I don't know, you don't have a fixed time and it's dynamic?
Honestly, I don't have a fixed time. I just do it as it. I think I'm luckily quite flexible in my sort of job time roles and stuff, obviously meetings and stuff. But for me, I'll just, if I need to learn something, do it right there and then. Read a link. Read an article, watch a video. Yeah.
And what was your latest article that you read and you found useful, at least for your job?
Okay. Okay. It doesn't really count, but I had to revise the best practices for coroutines. Just, I think it was today, because I couldn't remember, like, should we inject coroutines or should we inject coroutine scopes? or should we inject, whatever it was. But anyway, the Android developer article, there's one that's literally like best practice coroutines. It says exactly that. So I was like, yes, delicious. So I guess that's the answer. But in terms of new stuff, there was one that sticks in my mind I do live streams every now and then for Compose that you mentioned already. There was one article that I sort of brought up in that, and it was somebody who writ a conditional modifier block, so you could write like inline ifs for your Compose modifiers, and I was like, that is sensational. And so I think I talked about it on stream, but yeah, that was a really good one. I'll make sure to dig out that link in particular because that's a great read, and make sure we attach to the show notes or whatever.
Yeah, just share it with me. I will put into the description. And do you have a hero in Android world? Any person that you really admire?
I do. I love Chet Haas, man. He is my hero, and I want his job. What he does, I want to do. I want to talk to people. I want to get on stage. I want to have my hands in the developer world. And he's sensational. He's brilliant, and he's so funny. He's so charismatic. I'm such a fanboy. It's crazy. I'm such a fanboy. But yeah, Chet Haas is the answer there. Yeah.
This question comes from Reddit. But how would you react if you see him? I guess you see him on Droidcon.
I did, yeah. Somebody knows the answer to this already, but I'll tell the story then briefly. So yeah, he was at Droidcon, and it's 3 days long Droidcon. I basically spent the first 3 days of Droidcon seeing him and going, okay, how do I approach Chet Haas? What do I say to him? Like, can I go up to him? Is that all right? I didn't do anything because I'm a coward. And on the last day, after his finishing keynote, he basically said, if anybody's got his book, he will sign it for them. I've got his book. So I packed it in my bag that day. I came to the conference. I got in the queue with my book after his talk. And the whole time I was in the queue, I was like, right, I have to say something different to what everyone else is saying to him. I can't just be a fanboy, go, hi, Chet, big fan, sign my book. I have to say something weird and different. So I get to the front of the queue and hand him my book, and he goes, oh, I've got to think of something funny to write in your book. So for some reason, I just go, oh yeah, just call me an asshole in the book. That'll be fine. I literally said that to him, and he goes, okay. And then he spent 2 minutes with like mind block. He couldn't get that ridiculous thing that I just said out of his head. So he ended up just writing in the front of my book, insert actual blurb here, and handed it back to me, which I think is brilliant to start with. I'm so happy that that's what he wrote. But then I pushed it one step further. I was like, right, I want to get a photo with this guy. But again, can't be like every other person. So I went, hey, Chet, do you mind if I get a selfie with you? But instead of doing a normal photo, let's both pull really stupid, weird faces. And he again goes, okay. And the photo is brilliant. I'll try and dig it out in a second. But the photo is basically just me on one side going, like full on idiotic face, and then him going, like looking over at me like anyway, so that's the moment I met my hero. I made a complete ass of myself, but maybe it's very memorable. I don't know, maybe he's like, I never want to see that person again in my life, which would be a fair reaction. So yeah, there you go.
So that was the end of this category. See you on the next one. Let's start with the next category, and it's about encouraging junior Android developer who want to join the community. So my first question is, how did you start Android development, and what was your first API version?
Okay. I'm going to be frank with you. I can't remember the first API version at all. Pre Lollipop, maybe, must have been. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish I could remember. Sorry, maybe Kit Kat, maybe. But yeah, sorry. But how did I start Android part? So yeah, actually, I didn't sort of intentionally start Android development. Like, I never hunted it out. I never intended to do Android. It sort of happened upon me. And I think a lot of people in the industry sort of say this as well. And when you get your hands on Android for the first time and have a play, that's the sort of the moment that you're like hooked, essentially. But for me, I started as a so I did a computer games programming course in university. So my intention was to make games. I very quickly realized that that's a lot of work and I'm very lazy. So my first sort of real industry job was a hybrid app developer using like Cordova and Ionic. So you write HTML, JavaScript, and CSS and deploy it for iOS and for Android. So I did that. That's how I started it. And then towards the end of that job, we found real performance issues in our hybrid app. So it was my boss at the time was like, oh, let's make native apps he had somebody for iOS already, and I was the one sort of lined up for Android. So that was the moment where it was sort of like forced upon me, but I picked it up. It was confusing as hell. I put everything in the main activity in one file, and it was a thing of beauty. That was awful. It was confusing as hell. All of the life cycle events were just like, what is this? Why am I doing this? It felt like torture, but it was sort of thrust upon me. I made something. It seemed to work, and that's where I got hooked, I guess. So that's sort of my journey. And then after that, I actually my next job in the UK was just as a sort of junior developer, and they put me in the app team because I had app experience. And then I learned from one of the greatest mentors that I ever had. In fact, it's the guy that's in that video where I interview him, Graham. You know, I hope you won't mind me saying this, but he's one of the greatest mentors ever, and he taught me pretty much everything I know over many, many years. We worked together, and I learned from him. And it's just, I wouldn't have what I have now. I wouldn't have the career or knowledge that I have without him. So that's
Coolest story. What was your very first serious app? I think this is the app that you comment and talked about. It was the very first one after Hello World.
So that'll be the app for that company. Back in the day, it was a menu, basically online food ordering app, essentially for that company.
As an Android developer, what aspects of your job you love? And if you switch to another software development platform, you're gonna miss it.
That's really good. Okay, so I guess immediately the fact that what I write is on someone else's device, like it can be, if obviously if I upload it to the Play Store, it can be on their device in a matter of minutes, hours, whatever. Something that I write, production code, can be on hundreds, thousands devices, whatever, around the world. And I think that's quite a beautiful thing. Obviously, if I was making websites, it'd be a very similar thing. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I guess that's a really exciting bit. And also, like I talked about the difficulty, or not the difficulty, but the perceived difficulty of Android development when you first start. Like it seems a very confusing, mad, wild west world. But I think there's a lot of joy and pleasure to be had once you sort of start really understanding it. And now that I feel like I'm quite well versed in the Android dev world, I sort of really enjoy it. I feel like I have like a tool belt, and when I'm coding something, I can be like, oh yeah, take a little bit of that, take a little bit of that, just sprinkle in a bit of that, and sort of make a bit of a creative artistic thing, I guess, right? I think. And now that Composer's come out, life is real good. I've never enjoyed Android development more than now. I mean, XML was fine, and the real fast previews was great, but there's something about Compose, man. It's tasty. It's fun. It's fun. Yeah.
Cool. Do you also code for other platforms like iOS backend or anything else?
So yeah, I've never done iOS development. I've done a little bit of like AWS, I guess you could call that backend stuff, but I've done a fair bit and still do, as I said, like front end web dev stuff. So HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. And the reason that I really enjoy that and like to keep that semi up to date is because I think it's really good for prototyping things. So if you have an idea, one of the best ways to do it is just by building it and throwing it up there. Android development, that's fine. And it's got a bit easier now that Compose is there, but build times still sort of slow you down a little bit. Whereas with web dev stuff, you type it, you hit refresh, and it's there. And I think that's really good for prototyping and proving your idea. So yeah, that's my answer.
Cool. And what's your advice for someone who wants to start Android development today? Do you suggest to start with Java and then switch to Kotlin, or start Kotlin from scratch?
I think it's safe to say now that Java is in the rear mirror majoritively for Android world. I think you can ignore Java, in my opinion, completely ignore Java now, jump into Kotlin and just start there, and definitely start with some of the Google Code Labs, the Google Android Code Labs. The Android Devs YouTube channel has like a getting started video series as well that's really good. That's where I would start. Definitely the Code Labs, they're sensational, and the docs are great, but the docs are really scary when you're brand new, as you can probably attest to. But once you've started doing some of the Code Labs and you understand some of the key concepts, key terms, those docs become just delicious, I think, at some point. Yeah.
Cool. And because some junior Android developers has a trouble or have no idea how hard it could be to get a job and jump on a job as an Android developer, I'd like to know, how was your last job interview process, and maybe enlighten some of the steps for them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the one for Babbel I can talk about. So in fact, there's something I'll start with before I like dive into that. At the moment, I'm seeing this trend, or at least there was back when I was sort of looking for jobs in Germany, where they'll send out like a test, like a technical test before you get into the interview. And that's fine. They want to assess that you've got the skills, but they fall into two camps for me. One that is really, really good and one that is awful and I hate. And I'll start with the second one first. A lot of companies, I won't name names, but a bunch of companies that I applied for send me these like algorithm tests. So they're like an hour long, 3 big ass questions, nothing to do with Android, nothing. And it annoys the hell out of me. And you spend, sure, you can do some algorithm stuff, but a lot of your job especially in Android dev, if you're going for a specific Android dev role, you're not going to deal with like these bloody binary search trees and inverting a binary tree and all that garbage. You want to do like show that you can do UI, asynchronous calls, make HTTP requests, all that kind of stuff. And those tests, I hate them. And I would advocate that anybody that gets those algorithm tests, fight the power, fight back. I don't know what you can do, but just fight back. And yeah, I suck at those and I hate them and there's so much pressure. But then the other camp, which, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but Babbel fell into this camp, the take home, make an app test, which is definitely the better one in my opinion. It's not time constrained, which is more realistic to the job role. You're actually making an app, which is brilliant because that's what you'll do day to day. And they get to see and assess like your code quality without being under pressure. So you can put in some fancy things. For my app, at the time, motion layout was sort of relatively new. So I used motion layout just to sort of flare it up a bit, and obviously use some good architecture patterns, show off that way, as opposed to under a really stressful thing. Anyway, that's the preface, the take-home test. The job process. So the interview process consisted of a HR interview, a technical test. That's the take-home test that I talked about, and the technical interview. It started with the test, then the technical interview, then the HR interview. And each one of them, as I said, the take-home test was a lot of fun and enjoyable, and they gave me a weekend to do it, so plenty of time. After that, I sat with 2 already senior Android developers in Babbel, and we just talked about the obvious question topics. Talk to me about lifecycle events. Talk to me about Android UI. What's the difference between a fragment, an activity, and a view? Talk to me about RX Java. Talk to me about asynchronous calls. They asked a little bit about big O annotation, but not too much. They talked about, I've forgotten what else they talked about, but the really obvious stuff. And now I do a lot of interviews actually at Babbel. Not a lot. I've done a couple of interviews at Babbel. I see a very sort of similar, when I'm doing the interviews, I sort of bring up a lot of the similar concepts. I just want to see that person knows at least enough of the Android fundamentals. You need to know these things. Otherwise you physically can't code Android stuff. You need to know about on resume, on start, activities, fragments. Otherwise you physically are useless. Right. So all I want to do is assess that is there. And then depending on the level, if it's a beginner role, that'll be it. That'll be pretty much it. And then what will matter is the culture of that person. Do they fit in with the culture of the workspace? Are they, willing to learn? Are they, encourageable? Are they open to new ideas, open to learning? If it's a senior role, then I'll push a bit further. I'll ask about architecture, trying to draw out MVVM, MVI, MVP, MVC, all that kind of stuff. And ask some of the more detailed questions. And I'll really go back to their code, the take-home test code, and ask them questions about that. Why did you do it this way? Why did you do that way, etc. And try and make a conversation and understand their mindset. But again, that's the difference between the senior and the beginner or the junior, I suppose. And that's how it was for my role. So I got drilled in a little bit more about architecture. And then the HR interview, very simple. They are, from what I've experienced, trying to just assess that you fit in to the company, that you are a good, sensible, human, civil person that won't just start work and disappear for months on end, or that you will fit into the team. And it was a very, after the technical test, it's a very, in my opinion, simple, easy flow process, and it's just a matter of like proving that you know what you already know. And as long as you can tell people, verbalize what you know, you're fine. And then just be yourself and see because obviously if you are sorry, again, this is a bit silly. For the HR interview, if you're trying to be someone else, if you're trying to put a character on just to get the job role, no one's going to win in that scenario. So I always advise, just in HR interviews, be yourself. They'll see if you're right for the place, and you'll see if they are a good fit for you as well. So yeah, super cheesy at the end there. Sorry about that, but that's a big old answer. Sorry about that. That's a super long answer, but yeah, hopefully some of that was useful.
Yeah, I guess all of it was useful. This question also comes from Reddit. So I've been learning Android development for the past 3 to 5 months and was wondering if I could grab an internship opportunity.
Yes, I would say yes. I don't know if that's a controversial answer or not. I think any amount of time that's longer than, a couple of days, couple of weeks, having your hands in Android development is enough for an internship level. Because again, you're not going to be expected to go in day one and put something into production. If you are, that's not an internship. But instead, you're going to go and hopefully you'll have, as I said, a small amount of knowledge that can be built upon, enough to sort of just understand some keywords and some conversations you're having. And then that company, hopefully, if they're decent, should make an effort to train you and to mold you and to help you grow. They'll give you a good mentor, hopefully somebody that you can learn from, have one-to-ones with, have good code reviews with.
What the skill you will look inside a junior Android developer if you have some technical interview and HR asks you to do an acceptance review? This one also comes from Reddit.
Okay. Yeah. Good question. Okay. So from a technical aspect, I would want to see that they understand an activity, what an activity is, a fragment, and a view. Those 3 things. And I would expect or hope a basic understanding of the activity lifecycle. Forget the fragment lifecycle, the activity lifecycle. And that really, for me, would be it. Maybe a bit of Kotlin would be nice, but not a requirement. That would be it, because if it's a junior, I would really want to work with that person and start to show them the crazy world of architectures and modules and all that kind of stuff, but slowly over time. The other thing that I would look for, and this is a must for me, is a willingness to learn. Like that's number one. Forget the technical stuff. They could have 0. And if they've got a big willingness to learn, that's huge for me. Because that's, as we said a couple of questions ago, Android development world and life is about constantly learning and keeping up to date. So a willingness to learn is not only good for future them, but good for me, because I can help them sort of pick up the bits. And I think they can express that in multiple ways. It's really nice to see, people obviously saying that they're willing to learn, but showing it. They've taken courses, or they watched YouTube videos, or they've have side projects that they've messed around with. All of these things prove it more than words do. So yeah, that's what I'd look for.
Yeah, those type of people even make you excited to teach them more.
Oh yeah. There's an energy and a passion that you can sort of get from those people as well. If they're like, whoa, okay, tell me more about that. You're like, oh, damn, all right, yeah, let me tell you more about that. And it's it's cool, it's exciting, yeah, and it's good because if it stops with us, the development world of Android, then we're screwed, right? We've got to keep constantly bringing the next lot in and getting them trained up and helping them understand the chaotic world that we've already left there for them.
Yeah, we are here to make their life easier, so why not? Cool. So after starting Android development, how did you end up here? How was your career path up to this point?
So yeah, as I said, the hybrid app that was web devy tech, and then it was sort of, as I said, like sort of forced upon me to go like the Android native route. And I started with like Java, multiple activities, and that it was a very gross app, no architecture to be found really. It was all in like the activity files. After that, I moved back to England, and as I said, started that job as a junior software developer. But because I had mobile experience, ish, they put me in the mobile team, and that's where I connected up with the mentor that is, my hero, who taught me everything I have. And over the next 4 years, I think I was there for 4 years. We worked together on everything. He taught me things he knew. We explored, and Kotlin came out, and we sort of explored that together. Coroutines came out, we explored that together. And then after 4 years, as I said, pandemic hit. I was like, let's get out of here. Dipped off to Berlin. And by that time, 4 years in that other company, I'd been promoted to a normal developer and then a senior developer after that. So I was already a senior, although I didn't feel like it. There's a lot of imposter syndrome there. But yeah, anyway, then I went for senior role at Babbel, had got it. And I'm so grateful for the past 4 years before Babbel to have prepared me for this. And I feel capable-ish. Like there's things I don't know. Often I'll feel imposter syndrome. It's crazy, like having this sort of amount of responsibility. But for me, that's my career path so far. There was other bits in there, like I said, about a circus specialist, but they're not relevant. I was an IT technician at a high school at one point. I was a teacher at one point, but yeah, they're not particularly relevant.
I think they kind of prepared you, because now if your YouTube video is fun, it's because of your background plus all the things that happened before. But cool.
I think you're right. Thank you so much. That's lovely to hear. Yeah, I think you're right. I hope you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot say, okay, I will throw them out and start from scratch. But yeah, that's cool. What technical book do you suggest to a junior Android developer to read?
Whoa, okay. That's a good one. Okay, so there was one book that I read. It's super old now. I think it's out of date at this point, but it was something like Android Studio 3.5. And it was just this big, thick book, just explaining like how to use Android Studio. And actually, like this was when Kotlin had first come out, and some of the sort of complexities, some of the things you can do, and actually like writing an Android app was in that. And it was brilliant, but I think it's out of date now. I really think it's out of date now. There must be an updated one. Other than that, it's super interesting to read about the history of Android. So Chet Hass's book, Androids, is a great read, but not technical. What else? That's a really good question. I can't think of any more off the top of my head. Hang on, have I got anything in this drawer? No, I read a lot of books about like Linux and Unix and stuff. Like I'm a big terminal fan. Like I love sort of command line interface kind of stuff. So I've read loads of crap about that. And I think it helps me in my Android role, specifically when it comes to like ADB, using ADB like really well and efficiently. Using like Git like properly and sort of interacting with version control systems properly. But yeah, there's a crazy amount of books there, and I won't bore people with that. They're not Android specific, but they've helped me at least.
There was some discussion on Reddit, and I promised myself to ask it from anyone who joins these interviews. And it's about, do you think you need to know all the Android APIs and all the history behind to become a good Android developer? From very first API.
Oh God, no. I barely know any of them. Like, no, definitely not. No. Like most of them are, as you said, like especially the history ones, they're deprecated, they're out of use, they're redundant, and there's better ways of doing things now. So no, just know, like follow some of the more up to date ways of doing things, and I think that'll be fine. Find repos on GitHub that are, made in the last 2-3 years, and that's the APIs you need to know. Anything more than that is just like, bleh, what a waste of time, in my opinion. It's nice to know the history of some of these things and how we got here, but yeah, not for actually getting hands-on, I don't think.
Yeah, in that case, go and read Chet Hass's book. That's it. So
yeah, exactly. There's the history book of our world.
Yeah. If you like to know the history of Android, it was supposed to be used for camera, and that's it. So that's
that was such a crazy thing. I was like, what? Yeah. Oh man, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. What's your definition of being a senior Android developer? What characteristic a senior Android developer should have? Is it
that's a really good
knowledge
question.
or something else?
To start with, there's a decision making. In my opinion, there's a decision making component that you need to have as a senior. I think seniors should be people that lead the standard levels and the junior levels. They should be the ones sort of detailing how things are architectured, laid out, how things should be, what libraries to use, what not to use. I think, in my opinion, that should be the case. A senior should be someone that is deeply knowledgeable about Android, like the fundamentals. Obviously, knowing things and being able to look up the right things and knowing them off by heart is a different thing. If you asked me a question about, God, I don't know, broadcast something or other, I'd just be like, oh crap, I don't know, but let me read the docs. I've used it in the past. That's something that I think a senior, anybody that knows all of that off by heart, they're a genius, and they need to be like the CEO of the company or CTO of the company. But I think a senior should be, decision making, have a deep knowledge, but know how to apply it. And then I think nowadays, one of the really important parts of Android development is architecture decisions. And it sounds so boring. And if I'm a junior watching this, I'm going to immediately turn off because the word architecture is boring as hell, but it's so vital to what we do. And it makes good code, makes good apps that are efficient and functional and easy to maintain and readable. But that architecture only comes through being in industry, having your hands in an app and having someone above you, a senior or whatever that you can learn from, I think, or like a code base that you build together. Those are the three things: architecture, decisions, and knowledge. Yeah.
Cool. And by knowing seniority and juniority, what team arrangement you like to work with? So all senior or a mix of senior and junior?
Good question. So honestly, a mix would be better, simply because would it be better? I don't know the answer to this, but I would like a mix because as you're working, then as you can help those juniors progress. But multiple seniors in a team, you'll just fly through work. I think my preferred arrangement, I guess, is the question. So preferred arrangement, one or two seniors, many juniors, and then pair them up, get them pairing on tasks often. That's the juice. That's the good stuff.
Yeah. My only advice is that don't give them boring tasks and say, okay, we have juniors to do those boring tasks. Let them do it. So
agreed. Yeah, they shouldn't be there as grunt work. That defeats the purpose. They should be getting hands-on, involved, learning. Yeah, grunt work would just kill any aspirations or enthusiasm that a junior would have, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And another question from Reddit, which you somehow mentioned about it, but have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And how did you face it? Maybe open it a bit because you mentioned you had it.
Sure, yeah. I have. Yeah, it's awful and frankly terrifying. Actually, sorry to promote something on your channel. I actually made a video about imposter syndrome as well, where I talked about this exact thing. And I think there is no way around it. It's something you're going to feel because you have a logical brain in your head. You're going to feel like, wow, how am I in this position? I'm an idiot. I shouldn't be doing all of these decisions making. I feel it day to day still. I'm like, I'm Ben Kadel. I'm an idiot. How is anybody listening to a single word that I'm saying? But the one effective, it's not even super effective, but the one thing that I can say to help curve the imposter syndrome feeling is by simply knowing that it's not just you. Everybody or most people will feel that imposter syndrome. I'm sure you felt it as well. And simply by knowing that it's not just you, it unlocks something in your brain. It makes you go, okay, right, yeah, I'm here. Maybe, I don't know how I got here, but other people are feeling the same thing. We're all just quote idiots on a boat together, right? Somebody's steering the ship. We're all together in this boat. And just by knowing that other people are probably feeling the same thing and openly talking about it. I had conversations in my last job where I was like with somebody that was the sort of same level as me when I got promoted to a senior. I was like, so I have no idea why I just got promoted. That makes no sense at all. And they're like, well, and they explained reasons back to me that I didn't even think of. They were like, oh, well, you do this good, you do that good, blah, blah, blah. And just by talking about it and knowing that other people feel the same way, that's a huge weight off the shoulders. But yeah, it's part of our world, I would say. It's part of our world. Just know that if you are in a role, you're not there by accident. You've earned it somehow. You have talent, you have ability. And if by an off chance there was a mistake and it's not that way at all, but if by off chance there was a mistake and you've been promoted to a role you shouldn't be, then just get learning. But that will never happen. You will never be like, companies are smart than that. They won't just go, oh, senior, go. And you're like day one on the job, you're like, oh, I have no idea what's going on. I think. Yeah. What would you say to that? What's your advice?
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it. I would say, okay, I might be an idiot in this position, but those who picked me are not idiots. They are running a company, and I'm not the first one who had got the promotion. So maybe they're right. I'm in the right position. And as you said, if I don't know some part, for example, if they put me as a tech lead and I don't know how to attend the meeting, I will go and learn it. That's a challenge and opportunity for me to go and do it. But yeah, I think every one of us has been there, and this is something to learn.
Yeah, For anyone watching, you're not alone, and you are not crazy. All is good. You'll do it. You'll make it.
One thing that's important is that knowing that such a thing exists, because if you don't know that this syndrome can hit you, and this is normal for everyone, that's horrible, because you feel that you're alone and you're the only one who is doing it wrong, and it's gonna kill you someday. But knowing that this thing exists, it's really soothing and making you feel better.
Big time. Agreed. Yep.
Yeah. And for the next question, what's a normal day of working for you as a senior Android developer? How do you start? How do you end? How do you in middle?
Good question. Okay, so we use Jira. For anybody that doesn't know what Jira is, it's a ticketing system. So if I have a task to do, change the color of a button to blue from red, it'll be as a little ticket, a little slip that we can move on a virtual board from ready to work on to in progress to done to testing to merged or whatever, you know. So my initial start will be Jira board. What am I working on? Calendar. What meetings today have I got that are going to distract that working? Emails. Check whatever emails. And once that whole process is done, crack open Android Studio, open Spotify, get the chill step on and just go for it. Try and crack out as much work. I'm more effective in the morning than I am in the afternoon, both because most of the meetings are in the afternoon, and two, because I have an old man brain in my head where I'm awake in the morning and then I'm slowly just going, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter how much coffee. But yeah, that's my day. So the Jira board and then Android Studio for the majority of it. Sit in the terminal for a lot of times, dealing with a lot of the Git from the command line. Go to GitHub. We use GitHub for our remote version control system. Sorry, online remote repository. It's basically doing that. Sometimes mixing in a couple of pull requests, do a couple of code reviews. That's my day, I would say. Yeah.
You know this Git blame feature, and I'd like to know what was your reaction when you found a hack in the code and you said, "Okay, let's see who did it," and then you find that it was you.
I'll go into a scene. All right, here we go. Action. Oh, which idiot wrote this piece of code? Right, I'm going to find out who it is. I'm going to send him a Slack. Oh. Uh-oh. All right, well, I mean, that code's not as bad as it looks. It's pretty good. It does the job. Quickly change it. That's the live in action. And that happens more often than I care to admit as well. So that Git blame is both a beauty and a curse.
Exactly. It blow into your face. That's a good thing. Cool. And I'm going to ask you the question I asked from Chetas. So what do you think about the future of Flutter? Do you advise any junior developer to go and start with Flutter instead of Kotlin? And if not, why? This also comes from Reddit.
That's a really good question. I've got to be very honest up front. I've not played with Flutter at all. There is one thing that I have noticed, and it's simply that job descriptions are now more often Android/Flutter dev. So, and that seems to be, if I was to make a rough percentage over time, it's definitely getting more and more. For some reason, the Flutter seems to be interesting, impactful, happening. So I think Flutter has a future somewhere in Android development, but I don't know enough about it to fix a decent answer, I'm afraid. But it does look like it's growing in popularity. It's Dart, right? Flutter's Dart, or is that?
Yeah. It's Dart, and that's one of the complaints I've heard about those who do Flutter. They was saying, okay, if it was Kotlin, then Flutter was fantastic. But my next question is KMM. What do you think about Kotlin mobile multi-platform? Do you think it's going to grow and catch all of us, plus the Jetpack Compose, and you will write once and use it everywhere for both iOS, Android, web, desktop?
Honestly, I hope so. I think I hope so. KAM is a juicy idea, and it's like things like Cordova and Ionic and stuff have tried this sort of multi-platform thing in the past, but they've always been built on the common denominator of like web techie kind of things. So I think KAM, like genuinely for like desktop things, web things, iOS things, I think that'd be really nice. I've not had to play with KAM, to be honest. Just read bits about it. So all I can say is I hope I hope there's a future there, because really, if I'm being brutally honest, and I know I'm talking myself out of my own job here, I think it's crazy to have two different types of native devs for the same product, if that makes sense. So an Android dev and an iOS dev. Yes, it makes sense because that's what we have to have in order to get good, cool, apps that are efficient and work well with the device. But it's kind of crazy nowadays that we have to have like an iOS dev hired and an Android dev hired. So something where it's still, there's that gap that's still really there. That's like the hybrid app thing, the hybrid application, but good. So I hope it's the future, but I don't want to lose my job. But yeah, obviously, if it comes to that, then it's time to just reskill and learn something new. But yeah, that'd be really cool. That'd be really cool. Yeah. But that's the thing as well. Like if I have an idea for an app, it always it stops immediately because I'm like, oh, I've got an idea for an app. I can write the Android stuff, but I can't write the iOS stuff. So immediately half my market is like chopped in half. And then I can go, oh, well, I can write it with like a hybrid technology kind of thing. But then it's like, oh, it's never going to be as good as a native-y thing. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that's true. And as the last question of this category, this one also comes from Reddit. Do you have any good tips for effectively Googling in Android development? So any keyword that you use or anything you do to get to the right answer?
Yeah. Okay. So obviously the first two words in any search, Android dev, and then space, whatever it is. Effectively Googling. That's such a good question. Because literally I think you probably would agree, that's our entire job, right? It's simply like, as I said, we shouldn't remember things off the top of our heads exactly perfectly, syntax, layout, the keywords, all that kind of stuff, but being able to like search for that. And I think unfortunately it just goes back again to knowing those, like the key vocabulary, the dictionary of Android development, activity fragment, all that kind of stuff, and knowing those words well. I've just thought of something I want to add to that actually. Yes, Googling is a very good a necessary skill to have, and doing it well is good. But there's another thing that I think a lot of people know about, but just in case the audience doesn't know about this, inside of Android Studio, any API, you can, on a Mac keyboard, command and left click it. I don't know what it is on a Windows, control and left click. And what it'll do, it'll jump you to the actual source code of that function or that API. And often, if it's written by Google or a decent third party, there'll be documentation, there'll be comments in the code explaining what that function is, how to use it, and you'll get to see firsthand what the function parameters are, what the requirements are, all that kind of stuff. So that's sort of Googling, but within the code itself. I think that's a really useful tip if people don't know it.
Yeah, I do Control Q, which shows the documentation right in where I am. But if I don't understand it, then for sure I will go inside and try to read the source code and understand what it's doing. Yeah, good.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. This section is also done, so we will see you on the next category. Let's switch to the next category, which is some Android technical and your opinion about some of them. So, don't you miss Java?
No, not at all. I mean, Java was great, and that was like the first language I learned at university. But hail Kotlin, man! Hail Kotlin. Once you Kotlin, you never go back. It's just, no.
Sometimes I miss it, but just as a history, saying, okay, we used to do it in this way in Java. But
just thinking back to the good days, like, oh, Java.
Yeah. And some bubble on top of my head. Name only one open source library that you cannot live without.
Just one?
Yeah, only one. You have to write.
All right. Okay, the obvious one, retrofit. Can't live without it. I'm not going to spend any time making any sort of HTTP client. It's done for me. It's a beautiful API. It works with everything, even coroutines and flows. And retrofit. What about you? What would you say to that?
I think I will also say retrofit, because I used to code before retrofit and it was nasty. All those async tasks and running threads, and I don't want to think about it.
Yeah,
don't go
nightmares. Nightmare fuel.
This one also comes from some interview I had a long time ago, and the guy asked me, if you had the power to change an Android API, which one would it be and why?
I've got, I think, a good answer for this. I hated recycler view adapters. Hated them. Hated writing them. Hated dealing with them. Obviously, Compose world, we don't need to deal with them now, thank God. And that's why it's fun again. And spinning up things that are like, list detail apps is so much easier. But I hated adapters. I would just, I would do what Compose did. I would just bin the need for them. So thank you, Compose. Yeah.
I think that then the next question is useless. I wanted to ask you what package in Jetpack you think you like the most, but I think we already know the answer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
And I think we also kind of know the answer to this Reddit question, but maybe you want to add something to it. How did you get along with Jetpack Compose? Because the thread is really hard on the Reddit, and any suggestion for integration to the existing app, not running from the scratch?
Ooh, integration is a great part of that question. So first of all, love Compose, never going back. You can't make me go back to XML, people. But yeah, integration, that's a really great question. Because most of the time people aren't just going to go, oh, I have this huge app that's XML. Now it's Compose. That doesn't work like that. There's a great XML component, like an old Android view component called Compose View. And you can stick that anywhere into your XML layouts and then find the view, obviously try and use view binding, or if you're crazy, find view by ID, get hold of the Compose view and you can set content on that and then put Compose straight into your app. So they're integrating together. It works the other way around. So inside a Compose, you can have Android view, and that can refer to like old Android view system views, like map view is the example they always give. There is another one I think called Abstract Compose View. Is it, or is it something like that? It's Abstract Compose View, or something where you can basically write a reusable view component, like the old school one, but with Compose. It's a bit more abstract. Pardon the pun. But yeah, interoperability is really important, and that Compose View is an absolute godsend. It's brilliant. So yeah,
cool. Regarding TDD, test-driven development, do you think for Android is it just a myth or reality? And have you ever tried it in your current company or even previous one?
Mate, I'm going to make a lot of enemies now, and I'm going to go for it. Real TDD in Android development is a myth. People are going to hunt me down, but I've never consistently done it successfully, TDD, simply because of the build system, build times. TDD in the proper way that it works, with the TDD manifesto, the red, green, repeat, etc., cycle, etc. You can do it, but you're going to be sitting for 10 times longer than you would be if you just make something, then test it. I'm not advocating that you don't use TDD. I think it's a brilliant way of working, but I think for Android world, simply because of the limitations of our build systems and so on, it's not really a viable one. However, saying that, tests are vital. I think you'd agree there, yeah. And they have saved my ass on many occasions, tests, and not just like unit tests to test the logic. And again, this is where like good architecture slicing comes in, because you'll be able to test your repository, your use case, your view model, if you architecture it properly from the ground up. But UI tests are very, very possible and very easy to do in Android. Espresso, obviously is the library. You can query the view tree and start asserting things against it. But Compose has made that even easier. Like you can query the node tree and assert things against it. So there's no excuse not to have tests. But I think forcefully doing TDD consistently in Android world is very difficult to do without going insane, in my opinion. What do you think? You agree?
I agree. But anyway, I will share Ben Twitter handle here so you can go and talk with him.
Yeah, you can. No, please.
But talking about unit testing, when you are estimating a ticket, how much time you dedicate for writing tests for it?
Okay. As a rough rule of thumb, I'll often, in my mind, just do whatever my estimation time is halved, added onto the end for unit testing. And if it's a UI component, I'll very much stick to that. If it's like a small unit slice, something that's just logic or, underneath the UI layer, then maybe I'll reduce it by a couple of story points or, effort points, whatever you want to call them nowadays. But yeah, usually half added on the end.
And regarding testing, do you think how important is the code coverage percentage? Does it show something? Does it say that, okay, the code is a high quality one when it's high, or when it's low, you can say, okay, the code sucks, or you have to make it higher?
That's a really good question. Initially, people might be tempted to think, oh, I have 100% of my app covered, it must be safe and sound, but that might not be the reality. I think what's more important is the quality of the test as opposed to the quantity of the test, if that makes sense. I think hopefully that's relatively obvious to people. But if you just have a test and all it's doing is making sure that line of code, that branch, that conditional's been hit and swiped over. Whereas if you have a well-written tests that sort of make sure that all of the limitations are addressed, the boundary testing and all that kind of stuff, then that's much better. So code coverage is important to see that you're actually covering most of your code, but quality is more important, in my opinion. If you're forcefully writing tests just to cover one line of code, if the flip side thing, if you're forcefully exerting more energy just to cover a single line of code, then I don't know, maybe you can re-architecture that file, that class, or maybe that code's not important to cover. If that makes sense. I might have butchered the answer there a little bit, but
yeah, I kind of agree. Yeah, I'm on your side. That's it. And you already mentioned Terminal, but what other tools you use for Android development? Anything for Git? Anything for, I don't know.
Okay. So I use a tool called Screen Copy a lot, SCRCPY. I think it's a Python utility that runs from the terminal that basically mirrors your plugged-in device through ADB. So I have a plugged-in hard device on my phone, and often I'll need to demo it, especially now in this remote world, I'll need to demo the actual phone to people. So it just mirrors my physical device onto the screen. ADB obviously use obsessively. Most of my Git I actually just do through Git commands and stuff, a lot of aliases and stuff like that, to make my life a little bit easier. Other than that, I honestly would say that's it. I do a lot of there is one thing that's vital to me. So we have to log in to our app in order to test functionality further down the line, but I refuse to spend time picking up my phone, typing in the same things over and over again. And I also don't want to hard code in things so that it just does it for me. So what I have is I use a script that uses ADB to input taps and typing stuff. So ADB has this input mode, ADB shell input. You can input text or you can tap on the screen at certain coordinates. So I have scripts that do all sorts of things for me. So one of them is log in to Babbel, and it has my details. I'll hit it. It'll take 1 second to run and log me in, as opposed to me picking up the phone 5 seconds later, typing all that stuff in. And there's a bunch of other things, quick navigation routes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's just ADB with extra steps. Yeah,
that was interesting. I'm gonna try it. It looks like I'm also learning stuff here. So cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's what's it called, pointer location. So obviously I said about tapping on coordinates on the screen. Obviously, that the first thing that's important is that you're using the same phone over and over again. Otherwise, that script won't work. But there's a pointer location that you can turn on in the developer settings, or you can do it through ADB. Just look for pointer location. You can turn it on and off that way, and it'll give you coordinates on the phone for where your taps are. So you can just sort of go through the experience tap. You go, oh, 100, 100, type that into my script, tap again, 500, 200. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I will try it too. I'm also suffering every day doing this stuff.
It is a suffer. It is a suffer.
Yeah. And another question from Reddit is that how are you coping with the Play Store policy updates? It's getting harder and harder, and they're closing stuff day by day.
Okay, so yeah, the policy traditionally in my job now and previous jobs, I've never had to deal with Play Store stuff. Obviously, the uploading to Play Store using Fastlane and stuff like that, that's something I've needed to do. But the actual policy side of things is often a business thing. However, there is one thing that I'd like to point to, and I think it's on the Android dev channel for YouTube as well. There's a show they do called Policy Bites, I think it's called, which basically is like relatively brief recaps of policy changes to the Play Store. So if there's anyone that's wanting to digest those changes outside of like a written form, those Policy Bites videos are often relatively interesting and useful, I think. I don't watch them all at all, again, because it doesn't really pertain to me, but some of them I'm just like, oh, interesting.
Okay, cool. Nice answer. And this one also comes from my wife. So why do you think there are fewer women Android developers in our community? And how do you believe we as an Android community and other women in this field can help them, and even the company can encourage them to join?
Okay, that is a really, really important and good question. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm any sort of expert and say, you know, superlatives straight out the box, but I agree with you that I think there is that bad trend in our sort of industry that there are less women developers. And I think that's, again, just sort of looking from a higher overview of this thought, I think that's kind of the same trend across software development as a whole. And I think it's because there's this sort of like toxic idea attached to it that, oh, only men are good software developers, which obviously is entirely wrong. I think some of the best software developers I've met are women that, you know, is absolutely brilliant. But I think there's that toxic idea, and that starts from a very young age. And I think our education systems are partially to blame. Often like computer science classes or ICT or whatever don't advertise themselves well enough for both genders to be included in that, you know, for everyone to be included in that. And I think that's really sad. And there's that idea that, oh yeah, only boys do ICT and stuff like that. That's just should be wrong and outlawed. And there's a really great program that I've worked with actually in the past in the UK called Innovate Her. Mm-hmm. And the mission of this company is to go into schools and basically tell girls them basically like, hey, you know, this world, this is for you. You should be part of this, and like sort of just going in and educating that exists for them as well is a huge benefit, and telling them about some of the jobs that they have and getting inspirational women figures in front of them as well, saying like, hey, I'm a data scientist, I'm a Python developer, I'm a you know, Kotlin developer, whatever. That's an powerful thing. And I think honestly the root cause is the education systems. At least in England, I've seen that. I mean, back in my ICT class, there was 0 girls in my ICT class, and it's just like, oh well, it's already broken. At my university course, there was, I think, like two girls on my computer games program university course, and it's like, it's so sad. They absolutely should be part of that world. They absolutely should be, and I think it's I think it's just an unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation in that we all need to work together to fix. We should empower our colleagues. It doesn't matter what gender. Empower them. Start telling people around us that, you know, this is an industry for everybody. It's not just men sitting at a computer anymore. That's just crazy. So yeah, that's a really great question, and I wish I had a better answer for it, but it's such an important topic. So yeah.
Regarding this question, I was watching some documentary that the very first programmer was a woman, and then they were really active in this field, but then the number kind of dropped from time to time, and then that's why we are.
It's sad. Yeah, it's Ada Lovelace, I think you're talking about, right? The first programmer. Yeah, it's crazy. It's brilliant. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know what's happened. I wish I could point to a root cause of it, but I genuinely think, I don't know what it's like, you know, in your education history, but at least in mine, it's definitely just like skewed, and it shouldn't be, and it really shouldn't be. It's so sad, frankly.
Cool. Thanks for the answer. And we are done with this category. Next category is picking one of these options, and let's see how you like it.
Okay. Is this like a quick fire thing?
Yeah, don't think that much. Okay. Yeah, be ready for it.
I'm ready.
So Mac, Windows, Linux, which one you pick for development?
Linux, but if I'm doing Android development, Mac.
Okay. Java, Kotlin.
Kotlin.
Dart, Kotlin. I think
Kotlin.
You mentioned you don't know.
I don't know why that took me so long. It's like
Dagger, Coin.
Dagger.
Okay. RxJava coroutines.
Coroutines.
Git terminal or Git GUI?
Git terminal, baby. Git terminal.
All the time, no GUI, no nothing.
All the time. I do a couple of merges and rebases in the GUI, but the rest of it is terminal. And in fact, I'm trying to do Git merge tool is a nice sort of GUI in the terminal for doing merges and rebases and conflicts and stuff. So I'm using that more now. I'm like 80% there, but sometimes it's just so like confusing and complicated. I'm like, okay, I need to jump back to a UI.
But which UI you use? Which GUI? Which Git you use?
Just the built-in one to Android Studio. So I think it's like a plugin, isn't it, to Android Studio?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah.
Merge or rebase?
Ooh, merge nowadays. But I used to be a big rebase fan. But often I'm working now. There's multiple commits, and it's such a pain to rebase and then deal with the conflicts over and over again. So yeah, I think it's the way of working merge now.
To be honest, I'm also on your side about this one. They're still doing rebase, but I can see good things about merging. But that's a big discussion. We can do it later. MVP, MVVM, MVI.
MVVM.
And tab or space?
You're trying to start a war. Space.
Exactly.
Space. Yeah, my tab key remaps to 4 spaces. The show Silicon Valley, right? That's it. That's in the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, funny.
Yeah, that's cool. So that's more or less it. So how people can reach you and get in touch with you? Is the Twitter handle enough, or if you want to share other channels?
Yeah, awesome. So the Twitter handle @Ben_Kadel. So underscore, the line Kadel, Kadel. I also have, in case like a link hole kind of thing, I have a GitHub pages page. So it's cardelio.github.io is like my sort of landing page, and then you can go to the Twitter, you can go to my YouTube, you can go to my GitHub from there. And of course, if you're interested in seeing some silly videos about tech and terminal and Android, then my YouTube channel is just my name again. So Ben Kadel, Kadel. And yeah, that's how people would reach me.
I encourage everyone to go and see and enjoy. And any other topics that I didn't ask you and you want to cover at the end? And any advice for the junior developers? I don't know. Anything.
Interesting. Yeah, well, okay, not really, but just like an outing thought. I do super peer, so I just have like one-on-one conversations with people nowadays every now and then. And a topic that's come up often is people undervaluing themselves. So often Android developers that are incredibly talented at their job, far more talented than I am, but they undervalue themselves, and they they work for, obviously we're all going to say, oh, money's not important, but money is important. But like, money isn't the driving factor, but you should be compensated matching your skill level. And Android, as I said at the start of this, is like a niche area. I think people need Android developers, and you, person watching, you're the talent. So you should be compensated fairly. You shouldn't just be forced to do this. You shouldn't be given a rubbish wage. You should value yourself important. And obviously, it's very easy to say from my position of benefit and privilege, I've got a job and all that kind of stuff. But really, if you have a job, if you have your foot in the door as a junior developer and you want to start climbing, then value yourself. You have all that knowledge about all the crazy Android things. Just value yourself. Don't take the first offer unless obviously it's a brilliant one and you want it. But, look at the other salaries in the industry. You can do that really easily now by Googling the role and salaries in that city or that area. See if you're getting a fair payment, and believe in yourself. It's super cheesy, but believe in yourself. You got this. I guess. I don't know. So cheesy. I'm sorry.
No, super encouraging. I liked it. So that's it. Thanks for joining me, Ben. I really enjoyed this talk. And
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for watching. So that's it. My name is Mohsen. Thanks for watching. And if you like this video, I'm going to do it more monthly. So subscribe to this channel and hit the bell button. You will get notified as soon as there is another video. Bye.
Bye.